Hello, I'm April Davila for Sit Right Here, and this is First Page Fridays, where I will read the first page submitted by one of you. Thank you for sending it, and edit it here on camera so that we can all learn from the experience. I'll share my thoughts. It's kind of a collaborative process here. And if this is not your page and you'd like to send one in to have it edited, there's a link below this video where you can send in your first page. Before we jump into it, I'll just remind you, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll shrink myself down here and we will get to it. I usually like to read it straight through. I haven't read it yet, so please forgive me if I mispronounce. I'm doing my best. And then we'll jump back up and begin the editing. So, Angel from Hell. Always a good hint at what's in store here. Angel from Hell. He was a terrible husband, the kind which made you want to swig either straight out of the bottle as you saw him pulling into the driveway. In some ways, Sancho was a catch, Rhonda told herself. He was tall, dark, super, just regular, handsome. He was smart. He was not necessarily intelligent. Therein lay one of Rhonda's problems with him. It is one thing to think you are intelligent. It is the whole other side of the street when you think you are and aren't. Rhonda was every kind of smart you could name: street, book, business, hell, even trivia. This fact many times made them like cake and vinegar. Over the tenure of their time together and apart, Rhonda's resentment burned slowly and not so low within her. His lack of common sense and ignorance at times made her want to retrieve her favorite aluminum bat from behind the front door, then proceed to beat him senseful. Sancho already had less. The two met under probably the most normal of circumstances. It was an unofficial setup by their respective best friends, Amanda and Thomas. Rhonda always thought Sancho was okay. What needs pointing out is Rhonda had no interest whatsoever in mediocrity of any kind, not even for things people considered to be bad. If Rhonda was going to kick your ass or curse you out, even this would be top of the line in her delivery. Sancho, on the other hand, was in Rhonda's opinion a walking, talking daily dose of mediocre. All right, so first question, how did they end up married? So how, if she from like day one thinks he's just mediocre and she's the top of the line kind of gal, I'm very curious how the hell they ended up married. Okay, there are a lot of grammar choices here. Now, sentences should always start with a capitalization. Names should always be capitalized. This might be an artistic choice. It's very distracting. So I'm going to go ahead and just capitalize and fix some spelling and it's these are easy fixes. And I'm just going to be honest here. Like if you sent this to an agent or a publisher, they probably wouldn't get past the second line. Typos are usually a good sign that you have not put enough time and effort into your story. That's harsh. But sadly, agents get hundreds of emails a day, hundreds. And easiest for them is like, nope, that's not working for me. Now, if it's like one thing, like let's say you just didn't capitalize your character names, it might be like, okay, that's an artistic choice. They might hang in there with you for a little bit, but if it's just typos on every line, they're not going to get very far. So just something to know when you are putting together your pages. We'll work through it here. Okay, he was a terrible husband. That's not a bad first line. I'm liking that first line. The kind which made you want to swig. Oh, I said ether. I guess this is ether, straight out of the bottle as you saw him pulling in the driveway. Now, I don't believe you swig ether. I don't know. I mean, my knowledge of ether is limited. I will own that. But someone who swigs, ether is like you just put it on a cloth over your face and it knocks you out. Like you don't drink. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, so I'm going to leave it there. You know what? No, it's definitely, you can't swig ether. I'm going to put whiskey. You make the choice. It's your story, of course. And I'll just say to everybody, it's always your story. I am making suggestions here, and then you decide what is best for your story. But I don't think you can swig ether and survive. Might be worth a Google. In some ways, Sancho was a catch, Rhonda told herself. Okay, he was tall, dark, super, just regular, handsome. Now, this actually seems like an opportunity. We need to give the reader some understanding of why this woman, who by all accounts does not like this man, like there seems to be nothing to like about him, is married to him. So one way to do that is to make him really handsome, right? Like, I think that's something most people can fall for, can understand, is like falling for someone who actually you don't like them very much, but man, they're so attractive that you kind of got sucked in, right? So maybe just make him tall, dark, and super handsome. The other thing to consider here is that super handsome is so vague. Like, what does he look like? What does he have? Smoldering eyes, like dark, brooding gorgeousness, or is he more like a blonde-haired, blue-eyed surfer boy? Like, I don't know what is tall, dark, and super handsome. And so I'm just gonna make the note here that, like, be specific. Tell us what he looks like. Make us swoon a little bit, even in this first description. And then you say he was smart. He was not necessarily intelligent. There lay one of Rhonda's problems with him. Since we're on Rhonda's side here, I don't think we're listening to her tell us about him, right? So maybe don't say, if he's not smart, don't say he's smart. He was not necessarily intelligent. And again, you could say that differently. You could just say the man was dumb as a post, but this is voice, right? So I'm going to leave it as a voice thing. He was not necessarily intelligent. Therein lay one of Rhonda's problems with him. Is it one of her problems, or is it the main problem? Consider that a little specificity might be good. It's so voicey. I feel like I might be overcorrecting, but I'm going to just do what I do here. It's one thing to think you are intelligent. And again, usually in prose, we keep it to the prose. You can italicize. One thing to think you are intelligent. I would simplify that. You're intelligent. It is. It's a whole other side of the street when you think you are and aren't. Okay, so what we're getting from this is he thinks he's intelligent. So maybe get that up front. He was not necessarily intelligent, but thought he was. Therein lay one of Rhonda's problems with him. It's one thing to think you're intelligent. It's a whole other side of the street when you think you are and aren't. Rhonda was every kind of smart you could name, and you don't need to put this in quotes. Street, and here again, I would, since we're setting up a list, a colon would be appropriate here. Rhonda was every kind of smart you could name. Street, book, business. So the way this reads is that she's hell smart. Now, given that, like, your title here, Angel from Hell, this might actually, she's street smart, book smart, business smart, hell smart, even trivia smart. If that's what you're going for, that's how it's landing. So great. If you're trying to say she's street smart, book smart, business smart, hell, she's even trivia smart. Like, trivia smart isn't really a phrase I've ever heard before. So you might need to reword this a little bit. So you could name street, book, business. So, and then easy enough, you just say, hell, she was even brilliant at trivia. This fact, so now when we say this fact, we're kind of referring to the very last fact that was given. So it would be her brilliance at trivia many times made them like cake and vinegar. Now, again, a phrase I've never heard before. Sometimes a phrase I've never heard before is great if it's easily understood, right? Like, because you could say oil and vinegar, which would be kind of cliche. I've heard it 1,000 times. Cake and vinegar is not cliche, but I don't really know what it means. So like, if I'm picturing cake and vinegar, it would be like, here's the cake and you pour the vinegar on and it would soak into the cake and make the cake disgusting. But I'm not really sure what that's telling me about this story or these characters. So I hate to make it cliche, but maybe you could think of some other thing that would replace cake and vinegar and is more understandable, because I don't really understand what you're trying to say with this. Over the tenure of their time together and apart. Okay, so this to me is implying that they have separated and gotten back together, which might be hinting at things we will learn later in the story. Rhonda's resentment burned slowly and not so low within her. Okay, so burned slowly and rise. It was rising up in her. His lack of common sense and ignorance at times made her want to retrieve her favorite aluminum bat from behind her front door. I love this as a detail because as someone who grew up with an aluminum bat behind the front door, I know this family, like I know this household. They can't afford a security system and they have reason to think that they might need a bat at the front door. So I think that's a really, really good detail to drop on the first page. It really kind of sets who these characters are in a way in my brain. Then proceed to beat him senseful. Sancho already had less. So this as a sentence, his lack of common sense and ignorance at times made her want to retrieve her favorite aluminum bat from behind her front door. And I would just say, and beat him senseless, senseful. Sancho already had less. This is, I get what you're going for here, but it's awkward. It doesn't quite land. I would rewrite it or cut it. Beat him. Yeah, I think just keep it senseless. Also, that's freaking harsh, man. And so the question arises again, why is she still married to this man if she on a regular basis wants to beat him senseless or senseful? The two met under, okay, so here we start to get into backstory. There's really not room on the first page for backstory. What I would love to see on this first page, he was a terrible husband, the kind which made you want to swig whiskey straight out of the bottle as you saw him pulling into the driveway. I would love for the next sentence to be him pulling into the driveway, coming in the door, like put us in scene. Because when we're in scene, you can show us all this stuff. You can show him being dumb as a post. You can show her being smarter than him and running circles around him in whatever way is appropriate to that scene. Or maybe maybe in that scene, she eyes that aluminum bat behind the door and is like, oh man, if I just had the guts, I would just cave his skull in and be done with it. But like, you're telling us a lot here, which is fine. But it's much more powerful to drop us into scene. And remember that a scene is a certain number of people in a certain place at a certain time. So we have if we have the place, the house, the time is him coming home, pulling into the driveway. It's Sancho and Rhonda, and let them argue about something. Like bring some kind of conflict. Maybe he's late. Maybe he forgot to get the milk. I don't know, whatever the conflict is. It would be much more engaging as prose if you can bring us into the scene, because then you can also show us a little bit of what they look like. Like, is Sancho taller than her, shorter? I mean, you say tall, dark, and handsome. So maybe when he walks in the door, she looks up at him and she has a moment of like, oh yeah, I forgot you're really hot. God, you're annoying. Like, you put it in the scene, it becomes much more engaging for the reader. That said, I'm going to go ahead and finish out with what you've got here. For flashback should come later, but we're going to run with it. The two met under probably the most normal circumstances. This is awkward. The two met under the most normal, I would just say the most normal. So one of the things about being an author is that you are the authority and you get to say how things happened. So the two met under the most normal of circumstances. It was an unofficial setup by their respective best friends, Amanda and Thomas. This is a great way to get these people on board into the story. But again, it's not really time for flashback yet. Right now it's time to get us in scene and then maybe introduce characters later. Rhonda always thought, because again, this is a good way to introduce them, but usually when you start getting to 3-4 characters on the first page, you're kind of asking a lot of your readers. Much better to slow down a little bit, put us in scene with Sancho and Rhonda, and then maybe Amanda comes in, or Amanda calls, or Rhonda goes out to get a drink with Amanda because she's close to murdering her husband. Rhonda always thought Sancho was okay. And okay would be okay. What needs pointing out is Rhonda had no interest whatsoever in mediocrity. So really, what is she doing with him? He sounds really mediocre. No interest whatsoever in mediocrity of any kind. You don't need a period. Not in, this should be at least a comma. Not even for things people considered to be bad. I don't know what that means. She had no interest in mediocrely bad things. I mean, if you say of any kind, it's of any kind. I would just leave it there. If Rhonda was going to kick your ass or curse you out, even this would be top of the line in her delivery. Again, I get what you're going for, but it's a little awkward. Also, I'm just thinking on this, like you dropped us in here, like they met, it was an unofficial setup by their respective best friends, but then you don't tell, like, this will be another opportunity. So like have that first scene with them, and then you'll probably be like a good page or two into the story. Then you say the two Rhonda met Sancho under the most normal of circumstances. It was an unofficial setup by their respective best friends, Amanda and Thomas, and then put us into that scene. They met up at a bar. What did Sancho say to her? Like, or was he just so handsome that she didn't notice that the words coming out of his mouth were idiotic, right? Like, bring us on that journey. And maybe even have us see in that first meeting, from the very first, Rhonda thought Sancho was okay. And again, this telling of Rhonda had no interest whatsoever in mediocrity. Show us. Like if you put a scene in the bar, if you open with her in the kitchen and him coming home, and for some reason I'm picturing this more like a 1950s kind of kitchen. I don't know why, but maybe she's making dinner and something isn't perfect and she throws the whole thing away. She has no interest in mediocrity, right? Show us. Maybe she's mixing up a cocktail and it's not perfect, so she gives it to him and makes herself another because he won't notice. He's an idiot. Show us her high standards and his mediocrity. And then later, I mean, this is actually a pretty funny line. And so you could, well, if Rhonda was kick your ass or curse you out, this is, it's a little awkward. How could we rephrase it? Because it is funny. I like what you're going for. If Rhonda was going to kick your ass or curse you out, it would be a top of the line. Okay, so I think what we can do is simplify this a little bit. If Rhonda was going to kick your ass, it would be a top of the line ass kicking. Also, we don't, generally speaking, save the exclamation points for dialogue. If something is like an exclamation, we want the prose to kind of lead us to that excitement. So top of the line ass kicking. Sancho, on the other hand, and since we're with Rhonda, you don't really need to say, in Rhonda's opinion, you say, on the other hand, was a walking, talking daily dose of mediocre. Okay, so definitely need some cleaning up here. I would love some more details. I would strongly urge you to drop us into scene and show us these things that you're telling us, and then try to be really specific. Like, why is she with this man? Drop some hints at the beginning. I don't know, maybe he's rich, maybe he's like super sexy, maybe the sex is really good. Like, people have stayed in relationships for worse. I don't know, but I think if you're gonna bag on Sancho so hard, you gotta get us a hint in the first page of like, yeah, but there was some redeeming quality that kept her with him. All right, I hope this was helpful. If this was not your page and you would like to submit a page for us to review, you can do that with the link below. Go ahead and click, send us your page, and next time we might be looking at your first page. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to the writer who bravely submitted their page. I appreciate you doing that. This doesn't work without you, and I'll see you next time.